Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. Today, I want to talk about this watch right here. Look at that. This is the GXW-56. I'm going to move the others out of the way because sometimes people call this the King, or the King of G, or the King G-Shock, or the G-Shock King, or I don't know. Lots of names for this one. It's so big. It's the King of all G-Shocks. Now, in many ways, this watch isn't that much different from the one over here on the right, or more of a standard G-Shock square, right? But they both have 200-meter water resistance and basically have all the same functions and features beyond that. This one is just so overbuilt and built like a tank, and it's so large. And great for someone who maybe has a large stature anyway, a large wrist. But I find that, for it kind of, once you get used to this, it really doesn't feel any different from wearing one of these smaller ones. But I just thought I'd give you a quick size comparison here. I suppose the only major difference here is that you have these oversized buttons. And this also makes it mud resistant. It's almost like it's an extra case within a case almost on this one here. They've enhanced it with some sort of silicone gel or something to enhance the shock resistance of this one. And otherwise, a lot of the same thing. Just sort of a fashion statement on this guy. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about this. There's another version of this that does not have the Multiband 6 atomic timekeeping receiver built into it. So this is the GXW that has that wave scepter technology, atomic time built into it. The GX56 does not have Multiband 6, but in every other regard appears to be the same watch with all the same functions and features. So let's go through those functions and features really quickly here. Of course, you've got the oversized case, all this extra protection. But apart from that, you have here on the main timekeeping screen, you've got the day of the week, month, and day of the month there, hours, minutes, seconds, and you can have that in either the 12-hour or 24-hour display. It has a power save mode that automatically turns things off if the watch is not being used, and that will save some power there. The next mode, if I push the mode button, we see that we have world time. So this, you can choose some other time zone in a different part of the world and display that down here. And so if I use this button down here on the right side, it's as though I'm going eastward on the map, and I can choose a different time zone, and the time zones are named after a major city in that time zone. So if I just keep going, then I'll make it around all the way around the world. I tend to like to leave it at UTC, however, with this watch. And as it turns out, if I want to quickly go back to UTC from whatever time zone I happen to be in, I just push these two buttons at the same time, and boom, we're back to UTC for my world time right there. So next mode is alarm. So here I have an hourly signal that I can turn on or off by tapping this adjust button. Let's see, the buttons are a little bit harder to push than normal, I think, just because they're so big and tough. So hourly signal on or off. In addition to that, I have 4 regular daily alarms that I can set to whatever I want. And then here is a snooze alarm. So with the snooze alarm, it'll go for 10 seconds at 8 o'clock in the morning, as I've set it here. And then 5 minutes later, it'll go again for 10 seconds. And 5 minutes after that, again, up to 30 minutes later. So at 8:30 would be the final time. It'll go 10 seconds with the snooze alarm. And that'll do that every day. Now down here, you can see there's some indicators there to show you whether the signal is active and whether any of the alarms are active. If I turn on this snooze alarm, then both of those come on, indicating that yes, at least one of the alarms is active and the snooze alarm is also active. So that's what I see there with those indications. Also down here, low, medium, or high, that refers to the state of the battery charge. With Casio's tough solar feature, the face of the watch around here has a solar cell which automatically charges the power supply for the watch. So with regular exposure to everyday lighting conditions, that'll keep that battery charged. And right there, whether it's low, medium, or high on the charge. If it's at medium or high, you're doing just fine. If it gets below medium, then some of the functions no longer work. So you need to get that out in some sunlight or just some bright lighting around to get that charged up again if you start losing functions because the battery's not charged up enough. Okay, next mode here is the stopwatch mode, and this is a true 24-hour stopwatch. So if I start that up there, it's hours, minutes, seconds, and hundredths of a second. And if it goes past, if it gets up to 24 hours, it will reset to 0 and keep on going until you stop it. Now, if I want to go my split time or lap timer, I push the adjust button up here on the left side, and there's my split time. Obviously, the time's still going there. If I go split time and then stop it, it shows me my split time. If I push this again, it shows me my stop time. If I push this again, it resets everything to 0. So that's pretty standard on digital watches, Casio watches. Stopwatch will operate that way on lots of different watches. Here's a countdown timer, and so it's a 24-hour timer if you want to. So you just start and stop it with this button down here on the right, reset it with this button up here on the left. And if I want to change that to some other duration, I hold the adjust button down until things start to blink. And as you can see, I can adjust my hours and minutes to any length I want there in full minutes. If I set it to all zeros, that's my true 24-hour countdown. And so again, lots of other Casio watches operate the same way as this one. And then we're back to the normal timekeeping mode. So that's what you see there. Now, if this is a watch that you just got, you want to go through and do the initial setups. And so I'm going to press and hold the adjust button until things start to blink. And here it allows me to choose another time zone if I want to. I'm in the mountain time zone of the US, so Denver would be my main city there. But if I push this button down here, it's as though I'm going eastward on the map. And if I push this button here now, it's as though I'm going westward on the map, and it'll show me the local time in any of those places. So if I push the mode button again, DST, you can see is flashing there, and this is where I can have it automatically change for daylight saving time, or I can have daylight saving time always off or always on. I'll leave it on automatic because we do have daylight saving time changes here in my time zone. Press mode again, and here I can have a 12 or 24-hour display down here on this. Let's see, next mode here. Well, this is where I can manually set the time in case I don't get the Multiband 6 atomic time reception like I normally would. Here I can manually change seconds, hours, minutes, the year, the month, and the date. Now, if I change this to something other than what it really is, like I'll just change that there, it's going to go back to normal as soon as it's able to receive and process the Multiband 6 atomic time information, because that includes time and date. So just keep that in mind when you manually set this. Your manual setting could be overwritten by the real time from atomic time. Okay, key. So every time I push a button to change modes or start and stop the stopwatch, those sorts of things, there's a little bit of a beep, and maybe you couldn't hear it very well because I don't have the microphone aimed at the watch right now. But if I wanted to silence that, I push this button down here for mute. So now you see that little, it looks like a musical note with a line through it indicating mute. And so now it's not going to make a beep every time I change modes. The only time it's going to make a sound is at the end of a countdown timer, or when one of the alarms goes, or that hourly signal. But everything else is muted when you have it in mute mode here. Here I can have the backlight stay on for 3 seconds, or for just 1.5 seconds when I push the light button. I'm going to leave it at 3. Some people like it at 1.5 because it saves some battery life there, but I don't really have to worry about battery life on this watch because it charges itself with that tough solar feature. So next I push mode, and this is power save. So power save can be on or off. When power save is off, then all functions just remain active all the time with this watch. But with power save on, what happens is the watch will automatically sense whether you're using it after 10 p.m. So if it's in the dark, the solar cell, it's kind of a light sensor there. If the watch is in the dark after 10 p.m., and if you're not moving it at all after 10 p.m., then if it goes for another hour of what looks like inactivity and it looks like nobody's using the watch, then the display will go blank. And that will happen anytime between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. if the watch has not been used for an hour. Everything goes blank, and the way to revive the watch, if it has gone into that sleep mode, would be to press any button, or you could also move the watch because it has a little movement sensor, or just get it into a well-lit area, and that will bring the watch out of that sleep state. If the watch is apparently not being used for a week or more, then some of the other functions also turn off as well. So not only does the screen go blank, but it doesn't do the alarms, it doesn't do the multiband 6 atomic time reception. All that stuff turns off until you start using the watch again. And the way to take it out of that sleep mode again is to press any button, put it in a well-lit area, or just move it like that because it has a little movement sensor inside the watch. So apart from those functions that are really almost the same as this one here, okay, there's one thing that this one does that this one does not, and that is, maybe you saw, when I'm in normal timekeeping mode, if I push this button here that's marked adjust, just tap that button, then I can see my local time down here and the world time that I've selected up there at the same time on the screen together. Also, if I go ahead here to the alarm mode, while I'm setting the alarm, I do have the local time up there in that little box there. Other than those two things, every other function is the same with these two watches here. So the big selling point on this big one is that it's big. So if you like the size there, then that's why you would get this watch. Now, if you look this up at shockbase.org, you'll see that this watch has been available in a variety of colors. Most of them do not have this positive LCD readout here. Now, I prefer the positive readout. That's where you have dark characters against a lighter background. But Casio seems to really like the negative LCD or reverse LCD, where you have light characters on a dark background. I think that's a little bit more difficult to see. So I decided, just to get this one. And even though there are those other variations out there, I'm going to stick with this one. And again, you have the atomic and non-atomic versions of this watch. This one seemed to be the right thing for me because I do prefer the multiband 6 atomic time reception. So what that means, in case you don't know, there are some atomic time transmitters in different parts of the world, and this watch is able to receive that atomic time information overnight. Reception is best overnight, so this will automatically try to receive its atomic time information at midnight. And if it's not successful after a few minutes at midnight, it'll try again at 1 a.m. And if it's not successful at 1 a.m., it'll try at 2 a.m. It'll keep going up to 6 times. But if it is successful any one of those times, it's going to stop trying to receive until the next night at midnight. So that's what I love about this. I live pretty close to the atomic time transmitter in Fort Collins, Colorado. It's only about 350 miles from my house. So pretty much every night I will get successful atomic time reception. So this watch doesn't need a new battery. This battery will go over a decade before it'll wear out. So the tough solar keeps the battery charged. The atomic timekeeping receiver keeps it set to the right time. It's pretty much maintenance free as far as that goes, and that's one reason I really love this watch. The other multiband 6 transmitters, in case you're in other parts of the northern hemisphere, would be, well, there's one in China, there are 2 in Japan, one in the UK, and one in Germany, in addition to that one in the US. So that's why it's multiband 6, because those 6 places. If you're out of range of those atomic time transmitters, then this will run as a regular quartz watch with accuracy to within 15 seconds per month, and that's pretty good. I found with my other Casio watches, they usually do even better than the manufacturer's specifications when it comes to accuracy. So obviously the one that doesn't have multiband 6, that would run to accuracy within 15 seconds a month, and that's what you would expect there. And that's great already, but I like the multiband 6, so I never have to worry about setting the time on this watch. Now, if you want to know the last time that it was able to receive its multiband 6 atomic time information, here I'm in the normal timekeeping mode. I'm just going to tap this button on the lower right, and it tells me it was able to get that at 1:06 this morning, and that's today's date. So that tells me that, just within the last day, it was able to update itself and make sure it was set to the right time. If I don't want to wait until midnight for it to try to receive that atomic time information, I can press and hold this same button down here. And let's see what happens if I hold that for a few seconds. There. Now it says RC up there. And in a moment down here, it's going to say, okay, level 1. Level 1 is not great for atomic time reception. You want it to get up to level 3, and again, reception is best overnight. So right now, kind of 10 o'clock in the morning, it may not go to level 3 when it's trying. Oh, okay. Okay, it may not stay at level 3 for great atomic time reception at this time of day, but if it does, then of course that RCVD will stay visible on the screen there to indicate that it was able to receive its atomic time information. Now, my understanding is that this atomic time version of the watch was never officially available in the US market. This was a Japanese market exclusive. The one that does not have Multiband 6 was available in the US market, maybe not in this exact color, but so this one I managed to get, someone had it on eBay and it was a pretty good deal, so how could I resist? Plus I wanted to kind of share this with the rest of you. But if you're still interested in getting one of these, they've been around since the year 2010. You can still get them new. You might have to go on eBay or Amazon and pay a little bit extra to get them shipped from Japan. eBay will probably give you the best options as far as price on that, but you can get a brand new one from Japan for under $220, maybe a little bit more than that if you're not quite as careful with where you shop. But yeah, you could still get them brand new. Just have to wait for them to come from Japan. And the big selling point, of course, would probably just be the size. Now, right here, you got this oversized buckle. You've got, just everything about it is just so large. Let me show you the back of it real quick. See right there, you've got this extra piece of plastic kind of guarding the back of it right there. So just a nice, big, tough, heavy watch. It's not really that heavy, actually, but let's compare it really quickly to some of my other larger Casio watches. See, there's a, right there. You look at them side by side, and this King doesn't look that much bigger than this guy here. This is the GXW-100. Here's another big ProTrek watch that I have. And you can see, they're all pretty good size watches compared to, like, this is just an AWG M100. So again, not very big there. Here's a pretty good size one. This is the GW M500 watch. And, so I've got some watches that are, somewhat large as far as your average watches go. But for one that's just an all digital thing, pretty simple G-Shock square, this is kind of the biggest one around. Here it is next to a range man, so again, it's not that big compared to other options that are out there. And here's something to consider as you look at them here. It looks like these digits are spread out left and right more than they are on this watch. But look, they look like they're not even quite as tall as these digits over here. So even though this is a nice big watch, oversized case, they haven't really enlarged the digits very much, maybe not at all compared to this one over here. So some people think that's maybe a missed opportunity. They should have just made the whole thing oversized. But I don't know, this reminds me of like a monster truck. Like, you remember the truck Bigfoot? So that truck started out in the 1970s as just kind of a regular Ford F-250 four-wheel drive truck, and they kept modifying it and making the drivetrain bigger and bigger, and the wheels and tires and all that stuff bigger and bigger. But on top of all that was still just a regular size Ford pickup. So, the body part of it. So in a way, this is kind of like the Bigfoot of watches, because the digital display isn't all that much bigger than any other watch, and you might even say it's not bigger at all, but it's just a big beefy watch with a regular display inside. Even here, I decided just for the fun of it to put it next to my daughter's watch, right? So we got this nice, sweet little watch for her small wrist. And the thing about that watch, they look kind of ridiculous side by side, except when you take a closer look at the digits. Even that small watch from Casio has nice big digits, and not, the size is kind of comparable to the size on this big old King G-Shock watch. And that's kind of cool, kind of fun. Now let's just do a definitive weight comparison. How much does this weigh? Okay, 87 grams here, compared to something like this titanium ProTrek watch here. Okay, 107, compared to something like this big old aviation watch here. Okay, 87, so we're pretty well in line there. Compared to this range man, let's see how we're going there, 93. Okay, so really not a super heavy watch. Let's compare it to a kind of a standard G-Shock square there. Okay, 49, as we can see. So the weight here is not excessive in any way. And I'll dim the lights here. This is not a great way to display this because it's not really dark enough in this room. But how about that backlight? If I push this button here on the upper right, I get that backlight there that comes on. I've set it for 3 seconds. Also, I've got the automatic backlight there, AEL. And so what that means is as I turn the watch towards myself, like I'm looking at it, then it will automatically come on without having to press any buttons. And so that is one feature that's available here, because it has that kind of tilt sensor built into the watch. If I want to deactivate the automatic backlight there, I'll just press and hold the light button for a few seconds until A.EL disappears from the screen there. And if I want to reactivate that, again, just hold that light button until A.EL comes on again. So now I have the automatic backlight activated there. Something I tend to neglect to mention with these videos, if I'm in the world time mode, let's say I've selected, say, London as my time zone there, and it's showing me the time in London right now. And if I press and hold the adjust button, then that's how I select daylight saving time in London. So normally, daylight saving time would automatically be shown on here for your local time zone if you're using the atomic time reception. But if it's not your local time zone, then that daylight saving time might have to be manually adjusted there. And that's how you do it. You just hold that adjust button until DST appears or disappears, whatever it needs to be correct. And as long as I'm being extra thorough, let me show you some of the diagnostic modes here. So if I push every button except the light button, let's see what happens here. That's where I get to see some of the LCD tests here, and that shows me some of the segments lit up. If I push this button down here, then it shows me, I guess this is a little information about the module, I don't know, my local time zone. And here, absolutely every segment of the LCD readout is showing here. So that's kind of a little test there for you, and some patterns. And now you're back into your normal modes here. Now, the other thing I can do, okay, that was pressing every button except the light. What happens if I press every button except this receive button down here? Let's see what happens there. And this is my tilt test. So if I'm tilting it towards myself as though I'm looking at it, then that shows me that the tilt sensor is working correctly. And that has something to do with the automatic backlight there. And see, the next thing I can try is let's press every button except the mode button at the same time. See what happens there. That's my solar panel test. And so if I were to cover this up, and then there it's showing me it's passed the solar panel test. So just some diagnostics there that are available. They don't mention any of that in the manual. This thing uses module 3220. The other one that's not atomic is module 3221. So if you want to look up the official instructions from Casio, just look under those modules and you'll find everything else you might want to know about this watch. So there you go. That's everything I know about this king of G-Shock watches. And now that I have the king of them all, I guess I get to quit and not buy any more G-Shock watches and not make any more videos. Oh, that's not true. I'm sure I'll have another video coming soon about something having to do with timekeeping, and that's coming soon right here on the Good Timekeeping Show.